So unfortunately, all jobs are going to be gone in like the next 5 seconds. At least that's what it feels like if you listen to loud people on social media or listen to YouTube titles like my own. And you may even get to the point of adopting the anti-AI ideology as your new identity, screaming about how much you hate AI so you can feel like you're making a difference without actually changing your behavior or broadening your skill set or adapting to the new world. Because who would want to do that when you could just stay the same and do nothing about your life? AI isn't the threat that you think it is. The real threat is what it's always been. You are dependent on everyone but yourself for your survival and well-being. Your employer and government have their own survival to look out for. And when something threatens that sense of survival, they drop to a lower level of thinking and quickly attempt to reconcile the threat. And usually what that means is that they're going to fire you. It's human nature. You can argue that they're supposed to care about your well-being, but if you blindly trust that they will follow through with that, you are bound to be very, very disappointed. AI is too big to control by crying about it. And no matter how much you post about it on social media, that's not going to stop the jobs from being lost. If the jobs do get lost, I don't know. That's not the argument I'm here to make. I'm just going off of the commentary. And posting about how much you hate AI is also not going to prevent the skills required to become successful from changing as technology does. You can't just have the same skill for your entire life and expect to do well. You have to evolve. You have to adapt. There's going to come a time where you have to change something about your life. And if you don't do that, then you don't have any room to cry about it. Now, I do want to preface with the fact that I'm speaking to a very specific individual here. You know who you are, and these words resonate with you. But there are people in specific circumstances, obviously, that don't have as much control. And that's not who I'm speaking to. Now, in this video, I have 4 ideas to share with you on wage slavery, becoming high agency, and why all of these ideas don't mean a thing unless you fundamentally change who you are. And at the end, I have a short practice with 6 questions, which may open you up to a new way of life, even if it seems simple. The first point we're going to talk about is how to escape wage slavery. Wage slavery is doing meaningless grind work you didn't choose for someone else just to survive. Now, I am not anti-job. I think jobs are very worthy stepping stones for skill acquisition and experience. But whenever I talk badly about jobs or just be critical of them, there's always that one person who says, "You're an idiot. I actually like my job." And that's great. Again, I'm not speaking to you. And I partially think you're lying just to avoid facing your potential while simultaneously being unconscious of your potential. I am speaking to those who understand the psychology of true enjoyment and can't stand the thought of 1/3 of life doing work you didn't choose, 1/3 of life mentally exhausted to do anything worthwhile, and 1/3 of life asleep for 40 plus years. So I'm going to throw up a graphic, but enjoyment, meaning, and fulfillment come from living at the edge of your abilities. This is pretty well studied. No, I won't cite sources. Devin, throw up the source I made it up picture. Enjoyment comes from pursuing a challenge just above your skill level. Not so challenging that you get anxious and not so underwhelming that you get bored. Video games exploit this. You take on quests that are just challenging enough because if you were a level 1 character doing a level 100 quest, you would die immediately and you would hate the game and you would quit. It wouldn't be fun. And this is the single greatest driving factor of getting into the flow state. And if you can create a life structure that increases the likelihood of this flow trigger, then you have an abundance of enjoyment in your life. Now, the thing about jobs is that after a few months, after you're trained, after you understand the skill set and what you're supposed to do, the level of challenge just starts to plateau. You just clock in, you do the tasks, and you clock out. And for some reason, you're just exhausted at the end of the day. I've done this. When I worked at a web design agency and was trying desperately to get out, I just didn't want to go to the gym. And health and fitness had been a love of mine for my entire life. And the first time I started skipping the gym was just after work because I was exhausted from doing nothing but sitting in a cubicle all day. It's just like the fluorescent lights above me were just sucking the life out of me every second I was there. And so that's the thing. You get bored. It's against your nature and you feel it. Your attention is no longer immersed in the task and shifts toward what else could I be doing? And for most people, that what else doesn't involve a meaningful goal. It involves opening your phone and rotting your brain. It is very rare that a job requires you to consistently improve your skill to match a greater challenge. And of course, climbing a career ladder, a career is different. You have job, career, calling, each different level of purposes. And so with a career, yeah, you can advance a bit higher, but you're not the one in control of the goal. Therefore, you're not the one in charge of the level of challenge or what the challenge represents. You're pretty much told which quest to pursue in the video game, even though you want to be on the other side of the map doing the other one. You aren't working on your own projects, and curiosity, passion, purpose, autonomy, mastery, those are the 5 drivers of the flow state. And in a career or a job, you're much less likely to have any of those. So what does this have to do with wage slavery or being a wage slave? That's a very strong term, but stick with me. Well, civilization was quite literally built by tribes enslaving other tribes. That dynamic never disappeared. Instead, it abstracted into employment, law, and culture. Society has essentially become a pyramid scheme because there are more people at the bottom than at the top, and it's mathematically impossible for everyone to be at the top. There's one boss and multiple employees, and the multiple employees are dependent on the boss for their survival. So what I'm trying to say in this video is that you have to completely just leave this pyramid scheme or this hierarchy behind. Not that you're going to leave hierarchies altogether, but you're going to create your own. And as an aside, I have a short self-promotion. If you don't like me promoting myself, then just skip it. But I have 2 things. The first is that Eden, the AI content strategist, now has scheduling as well. So it is the full content workflow. You can research outliers on any platform. You can reverse engineer them and create from them. You can quite literally tell the AI chat to go and search for top carousels or thumbnails or posts from any platform and any topic from any creator in the chat. And now we have scheduling for all major platforms. So you can just schedule the content right there. And you can do this all from Claude as well. I've been seeing a lot of reels pop off lately of like, oh, you can connect all your social medias to Claude. And that's great. You can do it in Eden too. But the thing that none of those have is that now you can connect Claude to any creator, topic, or post, and you can search any of them, which no other tool has. So if you're a creator or a personal brand or a team, a marketing team, Eden is your software. And we've been seeing an uptrend in perception because we switched from Cortex to Eden to this Eden. The pivoting finally seems like it's over, and people are really liking the current version of Eden, so that makes me extremely happy. I cannot explain how much time and work it's taken to get to this point, but with Eden, you can get 50% off your first month, link in the description. And the next personal brand bootcamp starts July 8th, so if you'd rather join that and get Eden alongside it, there's a link for that in the description as well. And it's about building a profitable personal brand in 30 days. Okay, the sales promo is done. That wasn't that bad, was it? Most of us were raised with industrial standards. Become a specialist, study one domain hard, get a high-paying job so that my friends think that my son or daughter is successful. And since that's what you did, you stayed blind to most of the process. You understood the one skill to do your job, but you didn't try to understand the system that paid you. That's important. You didn't dedicate time to other domains, so you don't know how to build your own thing. All you know is how to fill a role in someone else's thing. And before you know it, your ability to think is just crushed, even if you were considered smart in the skill you chose. You make a decent wage, but you don't feel financially stable, so you get caught in a chaotic stress loop. And stress narrows the mind. It becomes even more difficult to fathom a life where you do build your own thing. It doesn't even cross your mind. And since you're stuck in the loop of 1/3 of your life spent asleep, 1/3 of your life spent at work, 1/3 of your life spent exhausted, you don't have any capital saved up to invest in your own thing. You don't have any time or energy for personal development, and you're probably too tired spiritually, not just physically, to re-educate yourself because most of your waking life fuels someone else's vision. So that's how you survive mass replacement, by the way, is you build your own thing. And you commit to it, and you accept no other option. We'll go over how you accept no other option, but spoilers, it's you just accept trial and error as your God, reality as your God, because that's what God is reality. That statement that I just said is going to be extremely misinterpreted, but if you understand, you understand. The problem is that slaves don't know they're slaves. And this goes far beyond wage slavery. We are all slaves, usually to ideology and belief systems in one way or another. Slavery is about force, and when we think of that word, we think of the physical version, obviously the very bad version that nobody likes. But wage slavery is financial. And if you cannot stop showing up to work without catastrophe, and if you have no skills to create alternatives, you meet the definition of a slave, no matter if your feelings tell you otherwise. And worse, if you've identified with your job, then you will take what I just said as an attack because that's your identity, your mental body trying to preserve its own survival. You will feel that threat response, even though there is no physical threat in the room. You'll want to argue with me, and that's fine, but it only proves my point further. So I think you get the point. It sucks. I don't like the thought of it. So let's talk about what's possible and what you can do about it. And that leads to point 2, which is the 5 ingredients of success. In a previous tweet that I wrote and a quote from my book, The Art of Focus, if you don't create a routine, you will be assigned one. That's how we're starting this. Because most people, for most of their lives, have been trained to learn things they don't want to learn, to get a job that they don't care about, working for people they would never want to be associated with in their everyday life. And while I think AI, technology, and social media have accelerated us to the point of understanding that there is more than the default path, that you can take your own path because you go on social media and see people doing it all the time, that's sign enough that it's possible. But AI giving you more leverage, technology continuing to advance, the power that an individual has is obviously more than it ever has been before. And I also think that people are just tired of the sheer meaninglessness of modern life. So for those who are tired of schools and jobs and just the default path, these are the 5 ingredients to becoming future-proof. This is the answer. These 5 things are what allow you to do meaningful work even when all jobs are replaced, hypothetically. The first is agency, which is the ability to just do things without permission. It's to see an opportunity and act on it when nobody asked you to. The second is taste, which is the experience to know what's worth putting out into the world. The third is persuasion, which is the skill to get people to care about what you do, not to be confused with manipulation. The fourth is persistence, the understanding that mistakes do not equal death and that they are necessary. And the fifth is iteration, the process of error correcting toward a goal based on feedback. So if something doesn't work, you learn and pivot until you reach success. Now, everyone is obsessed with being high agency right now. It's a buzzword that the tech bros have popularized, and they're all copying each other because it goes viral on social media when you tell people to become high agency. And them just doing that alone signals that they're not high agency, they're low agency because they're just copying each other and what's going viral. So I get it. It's important. Yeah, you have to be able to initiate action toward a goal and actually do something. I think that's obvious. It's one of the traits that distinguishes a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's not the only one thing. The 5 ingredients that I just gave you have to be combined together and used together. And so the 5 ingredients actually boil down into 2 skills, which is the ability to figure it out and the experience to know what needs to be done. Now, I'm going to play a quote from a podcast, the David Senra podcast. I never watched that podcast, but I saw a quote from it, and now I'm taking the quote, but it's really good. I want you to listen to this because it's important, and it will relieve a lot of your worry about AI.
AI so far is really great at asset creation, but hit creation is an asset creation. Asset creation is a necessary but insufficient condition for hit creation. Anyone can make a video game last week. Like anyone could make a video game 5 years ago. The technology is readily available. It's commoditized. You know how many mobile games get put out a year? Thousands. You know how many hits are made in a year? 0 to 5. You know who makes them? Thank you very much. We do. It's just true.
So anyone can build anything right now. Anyone can write anything, meaning that the barrier of entry to entrepreneurship, which is the antidote to wage slavery, is lower than ever. But that doesn't matter. Look at this. This is a graph that shows with agentic AI, there have been more app releases than ever, but the app reviews and the app with significant usage go down, meaning that you right now can go and build an app. It's actually pretty incredible what you can do. And if you don't know what to do, one, high agency, you just ask Claude, hey, I have this idea. How do I start building it out? And the first iteration isn't going to be that good. You shouldn't expect it to one-shot Notion or Salesforce. Like that's just not going to happen, especially right now. You just ask and then you improve and then you iterate and you fail and you try again and you try again and you get users and then things break and you don't quit. You iterate and you tell it to fix that and then fix that and then fix that. And eventually you have something very good, even though it was only built by AI. But again, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was just vibe coded and you perceive that as like it being cheap, because if it's valuable, it's valuable. As I just showed you in the graph, the apps go up but the usage stays the same because the people don't have the 5 ingredients of success. They don't have taste. They don't know what to build. They don't know how to persist. They don't know how to iterate according to feedback, because this is obvious feedback that your app isn't working. And they don't have persuasion. They don't have distribution. They can't get it into other people's hands, and they especially can't get them to care about it enough for them to use it and pay for it. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Agency is only so much. You can go and build the app and initiate action toward the goal, but what about the other things that actually make it work? Now, when it comes to building a software, I'd actually recommend it. It's very fun. It's actually quite addictive to get into Claude Code and just give all your money to big old Claude or ChatGPT. But I recommend it because I do think this is where products are going, especially for solopreneurs, creators, one-person businesses. It used to be info products. I think small scale software will be the new info product, because the reason info products dominated for so long was because, one, the barrier of entry was low, like anyone could create one, but two, just the structure of them is valuable. Education and knowledge is valuable no matter how much of a scam you think info products are. People did really well with them. The same is true with software. The structure allows for a lot of value to be packed into that thing, and it's just this clay that you get to mold. And if it becomes something valuable because you're skilled enough to create something valuable, you're going to see a lot of that pop up, and you're going to be buying quite a bit. And no, that doesn't mean that everyone's just going to come in and create apps and create software, because Uber Eats, like, you don't cook your own food. You order Uber Eats. You're not like, if you don't cook your own food, who thinks that you're going to go and build an app if you don't have a reason to? So the problem lies in the image that I just showed you. You can build anything, but that doesn't mean, one, that it's worth building, two, that people will care, and three, that you have the ability to iterate and persist according to feedback so that it becomes something worth building that people care about. And if you truly understand that sentence, you'll be just fine. Now, the second problem is that agency, taste, persuasion, persistence, and iteration aren't your typical high-value skills that you can go and watch a YouTube video about. Theory and tweets about becoming high agency will not make you any more high agency. The only way to practice them is to start doing your own thing. We still have a lot of this video left, but I hope you get the point that that's the point, is to build your own thing. That's the only way to acquire those skills, no matter what practical steps I give you later that will help, and the questions that I have you ask yourself that'll help. You still have to just do it. So that leads to point number 3, which is the antidote to employment is becoming unemployable. Now, I remember the first web design client that I landed when I was trying to transition out of my web design agency job, and they paid me $300. It was a local mattress company who just wanted a website so people could look at their mattresses. It wasn't even an e-commerce site, but $300. That is not that much. My girlfriend just landed her first nutrition coaching client because that's what she's studying. She wanted to do $2,500. That's way better than my first client, so good for her. But that $300 for me was just the moment that it clicked. I knew that if I could repeat, improve, and iterate on whatever I just did to make that money, I would somehow be able to gain more control over my lifestyle and future. It made me unemployable. It formed a deep conviction that I would never accept a job again, and I would fend for my own survival, as dramatic as that sounds. But that money alone is just like the checkpoint. It's just the milestone. It's the thing that made it click for me, but that doesn't account for the identity change that led to me believing that I could do that thing, and the shift that happened that made me believe that I could do it further. So I want to hopefully provide you with 2 things. I can't provide you anything, really, if we think about it, but I want to try to provide you with 2 things. The first is just the start of an identity change that could lead to this snowball in your life, and a very, very, very small action plan, because I think my videos have enough like big action plans, but I think it's too much. I want to give you like 1 thing, 2 things to do, because that's just what you need to do, and then you'll understand what to do after that as we talk about it. So the first thing you need to do is just hurl yourself into an environment that forces growth, because the fastest way to change your life is to rip yourself out of your physical and digital environment. You just change everything overnight. The places you go, the accounts you follow, the info you consume. It's difficult, kinda, but it absolutely works. Behavior change equals identity change, because you can try to go on a diet and lose 30 pounds, but if you aren't a person who values health, that's not a part of who you are. You don't enjoy the process of being a healthy person, then you will always feel like you're running uphill. You will, like most other people, gain all the way back unless you fundamentally change who you are. I don't think people wrap their heads around that concept enough, is that behavior change equals identity change. That if you do not have the values of the person that you want to become adopted right now by hurling yourself into a new environment and reconditioning and reprogramming your mind to be that person, then you're going to regress back into the person that you were. So how do you actually do this? The first thing is that you need to understand how your identity was shaped in the first place, how you became who you are. First, you were born into a family and culture with specific values. You were indoctrinated with those values, even if your parents didn't force them on you. You went to a school with specific values and were taught by teachers with specific values. You were exposed to an absurd amount of information that may have shifted your values toward things like rebellion or laziness or victimhood or success. There are plenty of people that magically end up in this place where they're psyoped into a successful life because they surrounded themselves with the right people without even knowing it. And then you got a phone, and that conditioning process increased exponentially thanks to social media and our monkey brains not being able to control ourselves. Now, there's a bit more to that process, of course, but you get the point. And now this isn't bad, right? This conditioning process isn't bad. It's necessary. Imitation is necessary. I've heard a few authenticity bros saying that they don't imitate, that they don't copy other people, that they don't do this, they don't do that. You walk on 2 feet and you speak English and you live in a house. You imitate because you learn. If you want to be super authentic by your definition, then start walking on 4 legs. Try it. See how well you fit in and whether or not you're cast out of the psychological group that you're in and whether or not you have any opportunities come to you, because it will probably be extremely difficult for you to survive. So this conditioning or kind of form of imitation does become bad when your behavior isn't conducive to the life that your core or that voice inside you is calling out for. And I'm sure many of you had felt or heard that voice where it just kind of whispers at you that you're meant for more. You feel it, especially in a fluorescent lit cubicle. You hear that all the time. So to begin the reconditioning process, it starts with your environment. You must become incredibly conscious of all stimuli because it is all feeding into who you are. So what you do is this: you just flip the switch overnight. You wake up tomorrow and you do nothing the same for at least a day. You set your alarm for a different time. You plan exactly what you're going to do when you wake up, and it's not the same thing that you normally do. You're going to eat different foods. You're going to talk to different people. You're going to consume different content. Everything. And now as we progress further into this video, you'll start to understand what you should align yourself with, but you have to understand that this video is also hopefully a change in your environment, conditioning you to be on the right path. We don't have to get super practical for this information to start permeating into your brain and slowly changing who you are if you fill yourself with more of it, not just my content, obviously, books, other YouTubers, not just entertaining yourself to death on a dopamine feed, doom scrolling. Now, number 2 is choose a vessel where feedback is as close to reality as possible. This is going to be the most esoteric section, the least practical section. But I promise you, this is the single most important thing you could ever do. This is the single most important thing that you just need to drill into your head and accept as law. The most dangerous lifestyle is one removed from continuous trial and error. To be removed from the process of error correction is to be removed from challenge, discovery, and hard-earned wisdom that leads to growth, that leads to fulfillment. This does not only apply to jobs where the level of challenge you are exposed to normalizes after you become accustomed to the task. It applies to business and entrepreneurship, as well as to those who carry over the employee mindset, which is always needing to be told what to do or always needing a handbook to feel confident in their steps. What I'm trying to say is that plenty of entrepreneurs may not be engaged in this process, this very enjoyable process that truly leads to success, trial and error. And so to make this practical for you, the question is, how did people in the past figure out how to do the very first thing that was done? And I'm talking like before how-to guides and step-by-step processes were created that people are so obsessed with. Like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do this? Give me the step-by-step bullet points of how to do it and I'll do it. No, you won't. But how was the first rocket built? Was there a guide for it? Like, if you were forced to create a rocket, could you, or would you be the type of person that just like is scouring around for a how-to guide just to consume it and then do nothing about it? What I'm trying to tell you is that through the process of trial and error, you can do anything within the laws of physics. And so the successful people, they tried and they failed, and they didn't let failure convince them into believing it was impossible or disorient them to the point of indulging in quick pleasure. They set a new direction according to the feedback reality had given them, and eventually they found the needle in the haystack. They were intelligent, because the mark of an intelligent system is that they course correct according to feedback. They have a lighthouse and they don't quit when they get blown off course. So when I talk about entrepreneurship, this is what I mean. I mean engaging in your natural state, engaging in the process of creation, pursuing unknown goals that demand failure to achieve. This is the singular trait of highly successful individuals. Failure is not a negative thing to them. It is a constant. It is necessary for a good life. It happens every single day for them. And so that all sounds great, but how do you actually apply this to today's world? And that leads to number 3, which is to learn one of these 2 skills if you want to thrive in the future. And we'll start with a quote from Naval, which is, "Code and media are permissionless leverage. They're the leverage behind the newly rich. You can create software and media that works for you while you sleep." So you, as a beginner, as one person, do not recognize how much power that you have, especially with AI. And I'm not talking about the lower levels of AI use. I'm not talking about the people who just ask ChatGPT questions and the artists who get mad at AI for stealing their work. I'm talking about the higher level where you now realize that you can build almost anything. It's incredible to see people reach this realization and they just get like stuck building things, and then I see them like, it's happening more than in my circle, but they come into the Eden Discord and they're like I built this thing that I'd always wanted, but I never knew existed. And now people get mad at that. They're like, oh, but you didn't spend the time and effort to learn how to actually build it, as if this isn't actually building it. So once you can actually see through the status games that like the tool gatekeepers or the skill gatekeepers are coming after, it's like that meme or that reel where this person is a corporate worker and she goes to this guy who's a vibe coder and she's like, oh, how's your little app doing? And he's like, oh, it made like 2 million this month. And then she's like, oh, like we're not even making anything close to that. And it's because it's not all about the status of learning a specific skill. We talked about this earlier in the video. And now all of this was possible before AI, right? Like you could go and you could learn how to build the app, how to build the software. That wasn't a barrier. And the people who really wanted to probably would. And the core problem is that most people just don't understand what's possible with a long enough time horizon and the 5 ingredients of success that we talked about. AI is simply allowing you to do more, faster, and has given you access to the things that you didn't have before, like the ability to create software, because that would have taken way more time, or you would have had to pay someone to do it for you at an extreme rate. Now, with that said, I've talked a lot about software, but I personally believe the media side of things is more important. And by media, I'm talking about content. So posts, videos, podcasts, or writing that you publish once and it can be seen by thousands, if not millions of people, because that, in my opinion, will be the skill worth having, especially as more people try to do it all with AI. Because with content, you need to know what good looks like. You still need education that AI can't give you because you haven't started the process of trial and error. You don't know what to ask. The value of content is subjective. Every person reading every single sentence is going to interpret it in a different way. In other words, there is no one right way to get results. Now, the value of code, on the other hand, is relatively objective. It doesn't really matter how you write it as long as it works, as long as it gets the result you were looking for. And I know many people will disagree with that, but you have to agree that the point is largely true. If it works, if the user doesn't notice any problems, does it matter if the code is spaghetti? Does it matter if a human can't read it? And sure, we can argue whether or not it's going to break in the future or this or that, but still, if the code works, the code works. With content, there is no works. There is no set result. Meaning that one, the skill cap is only going to continue to get higher, and the people who do have that high skill cap will be able to put the code to much more use because they have distribution. Because if you don't have distribution, how are you going to get the thing that you build, be it with code or with your hands, if you're like a woodworker, or anything that you create, anything that you do for work, your life's work, your meaningful work? How are you going to get that in people's hands? And how are you going to get them to care? That is the skill of media or content. And by the way, I'm not talking about the type of content where people on Instagram are like, oh, I gave Claude access to my Instagram and it grew me 100,000 followers overnight, because that's practically worthless unless you have authority and loyalty and trust. Eden can do that too. Eden can connect to all your crap and post for you if you want to do all of that automated, but that's like not what we're pushing, because we know that you still have to learn the thing. That's why we're doing the boot camp. That's why we have the education in place. And as J.K. Molina says, likes ain't cash. That's his entire motto. It doesn't matter how many followers you have, how many likes you have. It really doesn't. Once you're in the game, you understand that. But that also doesn't mean that a lot of followers or a lot of likes is completely useless if the trust, authority, and loyalty are behind it to any degree, right? It's not binary. It's not an on and off switch. All of this is complex. So intelligent content creation is much more than just posting rage bait to get people to click. So this leads into part 4, which is just how to start. And I want you to set aside 15 minutes here, which may change the trajectory of your life. That sounds dramatic. I don't mean for it to be, but that's just what it is. So you've changed your environment. You have a chosen vessel, a vessel for where you're going, which is either content or code. I'm recommending content, and that's what we're talking about, but you don't have to go that way. Even though if you go the code route, eventually you're going to have to go the content route. And so now you need to answer the only question that matters. What is your life's work? Because that's what we're building, a life's work. We're not building a personal brand, because that is just the vessel to do the life's work. You think of Peterson, or you think of Huberman, or you think of Watts, Alan Watts, or Marcus Aurelius. They all have personal brands. Yes, even Alan Watts, even though that's not what he was trying to do, he still has one, a very prominent one, and he's not even around anymore. So they have personal brands, but they are deeply aligned with their purpose, with their vision. They know what they want, and they use social media as the tool to achieve that thing, because it's the best tool that we have at our disposal right now. That's obvious. It's the permissionless leverage. It's the content, it's the media. That may change, right? If we all go to Mars, then the technology to get your work in front of other people is going to change. But right now, it's social media. And it could be the newspaper or the radio or television or a publisher for a book to help get you in front of other people. But then you still have to do the work if you have a publisher. But for the person that I'm speaking to here, the beginner, the person who's starting with no capital, with nothing, and just wants to start something, social media is the obvious choice. And so if you learn media or content, you can really sell whatever you want. It can be a book, and you can do that without a publisher. It can be music if you want to. I've actually thought about that a lot. Is like, I love music. I've always loved the thought of learning how to produce EDM of some sorts. And it got me thinking like, okay, well, how would I actually get on stage? How would I become successful in that domain? And honestly, I'd do what I'm doing right now. I'd give my thoughts and opinions. A lot of the musicians think that they have to just like post their music and they're going to go viral. No, I'm talking about the quality of ideas. That's what matters in building an audience. It's choosing a problem, choosing a mission, creating content around that, attracting people to it. Your music is the product that you're selling. It's not the content. And so if I created this very loyal fan base, then I could probably get a lot of them to come to my shows, and then that would start to proliferate. I was at an event, the Future Proof Summit. If you came, it was good to meet you. And I spoke for the first time on stage, and public speaking isn't my thing. I know I do YouTube videos, but I like writing. Writing is just going to be my thing. I need to write another book. But if you think of it, that's kind of like me being a musician, right? That's my event. That's me being live on stage, and this is just my content. So back to the point about Peterson, Huberman, Watts, their personal brand isn't this corporate hooks, templates, that kind of thing. It's who they are. It's their mind or worldview or beliefs or interests or experiences put in public so people can explore it. And if you want to see your identity live, sign up for Eden. That's what we help you do in onboarding, is create your identity so that the AI can actually speak like you. And that's what users have been saying, is that Eden writes better than any other AI software because it has an identity, not just voice replication, not just like looking at your writing or your script and being like, oh, he speaks this way. No, your mind. And so most people love the idea of this, of building a personal brand or becoming a creator or becoming a YouTuber, but they get stuck very fast. They just look for the quick dopamine hit, searching for what's the best niche to make 6 figures in with content creation, rather than digging into the value they already have from years of accumulated experience and story that they think is worthless because it's normal to them. The raw material for your life's work is already inside you, buried under years of being told to specialize, to be practical, to stop asking so many questions. This process isn't meant to give you some new and novel idea. Instead, it's meant to show you what you already have. So take this seriously. We're getting into the final part. I want you to close your tabs. This was a newsletter before. Close your tabs, accept this video. Open a blank document, just somewhere on your phone, Eden, take notes, open quick capture. There is mobile app on the phone. Join the Discord. I'm excited. I'm sorry for promoting so much. We finally did it. Mobile app after 3 freaking years, and it's awesome. But I want you to answer every question below in writing. So the first thing we're going to do is just excavate your raw material, because most of what makes you interesting has been trained out of you. Your curiosity was treated as a distraction. Your varied interests were labeled as a lack of focus. The system wanted you an obedient worker. So your content will only work if it comes from material that is actually yours. So I want you to answer these, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. Move on and let the question sit in your subconscious. First, what do you know too much about for it to be an accident? What topic have you researched across dozens of sources for years without anyone paying you to? The second is, what problem did you solve for yourself that you assumed everyone else had figured out, and what comes naturally to you that seems to break everyone else? Hint, hint, that's your product. That's what you sell. You solve a problem for yourself and you solve it for someone else. The third is, what did you get in trouble for as a kid that was actually just early taste? What did you obsess over before anyone told you it was impractical? Now, from those 3, I just want you to stick with one answer. Take one of the answers that you gave, the one that felt the best, and that's what you're going to start with. So we're not going to worry about your niche or your content pillars or any of that. We're going to worry about that one answer. Now, step 2 is to find or name your contrarian spine, because nobody needs another person repackaging common sense. Your content needs a perspective that only you can see. That perspective comes from the one thing you believe that the mainstream gets wrong. Now, one way I like to look at taste, or having taste, is that taste represents the ability to know what is broken and not be able to pull yourself away from it. It's the ability to spot the chink in the armor and polish it up. So it's not only about knowing what good looks like, because in order to know what good looks like or to create good, you have to know what isn't just right and then make it right. And that is your edge. So answer these next. First, what piece of mainstream advice actively made your life worse? And what did you have to unlearn to become functional? So second, what do you believe about your domain that experts would call stupid or naive, but you just can't stop thinking about? And third, what is everyone in your industry pretending not to see, or what do they not talk about? Now, your answers to the 6 questions that we went over, one, they just gave you the 6 fundamental types of posts that you should create. All of those answers form the foundation or the starting point of a very good, I wouldn't say viral, but proven post that generates more authority and trust than just trying to go viral. And so out of those, you have one first post. You just need to work on that. So that leads to step 3, is that you're going to post your first idea tomorrow. And now this is a video. This isn't a course. I don't have time to fit 20 modules into this. That's what the bootcamp is for. But the final ingredient to mark the beginning of the end of dependence on someone else for financial stability is actually doing the thing. And actually doing the thing starts with one post. You literally have post ideas written down from the last step. So you take one, you think of how to make the hook attention grabbing, you think of how to word the body for impact, and then you embrace that the first iteration will suck and that you can't improve what doesn't exist. Meaning, if you never post, you're never going to get better. Now, if you want a little help with this, I left a prompt/skill where you can put the answer that you wrote down into the chat, and it will give you angles and potential draft variations so you can start to make sense of how it will look as a post. It will give you 12, I believe, and they're pretty good. So you just click the prompt, click duplicate the prompt, and then you can start chatting. And another thing, while I still have you here, is that a few videos ago, how to actually grow on social media, or growing on social media is easy actually, that goes over the fundamentals. If you pair this video with that one, you have a lot of the puzzle pieces. And so now, once you do that, once you actually make your first post, it's just like a tiny little action that at least puts you in the flow of feedback, in the flow of trial and error, because that post isn't going to do well. Sorry, maybe it will. But when it doesn't do well, what are you going to do? Oh, social media isn't for me. Oh, social media is only for lucky people. Or are you going to look at it and be like, oh, okay, that didn't work. What didn't work about it? Why didn't it work? Now I'm going to look at someone else's post that did really well and be like, oh, okay, I see some differences here. I see how this hook is structured. I see how this body's structured. Or now that you have the problem or the failure as a reference point, that's when you learn the most. That's how you actually learn. Then you go and look up specifically on YouTube or Google or Ask Claude or whatever, like, how do I fix this? What's a tactic that I can try? And then you get a tactic, like how to write a hook in a specific way. And then you try that and you see, okay, did this do a little bit better or did it not? And if it didn't, and if you're just stuck in the void, then is the problem how you're writing, or is the problem how you're growing? Is it a different problem entirely? And do you need both skills? The answer is yes. But I think you get the point of you just try and error and correct until you reach success. So that's it. Like, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Links in the description for Bootcamp Eden, the skill and prompt. Thanks for watching. All right, bye.